Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries then. Next we have citizen comments. Gonna wait for the end of the meeting, Mr. Neiman.
Yep.
Next, the mayor's report. Did he give you anything?
Nothing in particular.
Okay. Engineer's report, did we get anything from the engineer?
That would be at the end of the month. It's probably still on there because this was originally the March 25th agenda.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Regroup.
so I just didn't cut that one off, my apologies.
No worries. Next, solicitor's report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the manager's report.
Geez, pressure's on, I gotta be quick. Okay, so probably the longest section that I have on here is the agenda item detail. Just a couple ones that I want to highlight. One is, under administration, the motion to authorize Crafton Celebrates to host a pet portrait station at their fundraising event in Crafton Park on May 25th. I believe they're having some sort of community yard sale swap thing. In 2013, they did a pet portrait booth at that same event, and it apparently did very well. However, our code, I think it's chapter 154, Parks and Rec areas, technically does not allow pets unless council specifically approves it for an event. So at that time, they did it to just, allow leashed pets basically to come in and do this pet portrait event. So they wanted to see if, this could be placed on the agenda so they could start marketing the event as soon as possible. So that's could be on there for your consideration. Also, there is a motion to advertise an ordinance to be drafted by the solicitor, which may be drafted already, to increase the rec board membership from 7 to 9 members, which is the maximum allowed by the state code, and fix the term expiration dates, so all terms end on December 31st instead of September 30th. That's something that's a little more common, is to just have everything expire at the end of the year versus, different months throughout the year. So if the ordinance is ready to be advertised, we can motion to do that tonight, or you can just motion to, once it's ready, to go ahead and put it out. I wanted to flag one thing. You may want to consider addressing term lengths, either at the time of appointment for 2 new terms if this is passed, or in the ordinance language, because when the rec board was decreased to 7 at-large members a handful of years ago, the term length language wasn't adjusted to address at least 2 appointees' terms shall expire annually. So we actually have 1 year in which nobody's term expires the way it is right now. I think it's in 2021, which is probably because the 2 members that were removed would have been on that schedule. So my suggestion is, if you do go forward with this ordinance, is that you have perhaps the 2 new terms end in 2021, so that way you get the appointment schedule back on track and you have at least 2 people expiring every year. So that's all that I have for agenda items. The rest is kind of self-explanatory, or just sort of routine payments, things like that, but of course, happy to take any questions when we get there. 2 next items are just brief announcements. One is we got our liquid fuels allocation within the last week or so. It was, for this year, it was $179,969. So a little under 180. This is a tad higher than it was last year. It's just based off of, essentially the tax that funds the liquid fuels distribution. So it varies a little bit, but mostly has been going up. And that we have to show an audit report to the state that we use it for various things having to do with maintaining the roads, highways, salting, stuff like that. The other announcement is, I just wanted to sort of confirm on the record that I have scheduled my vacation this year for the June 10th. So I will not be here, but of course I have the Borough cell phone, so if anything comes up, I'm just a call away. I'll be keeping an eye on email, but hopefully you'll be enjoying the beach, perhaps, that week. So moving on. The local government academy intern application was something that I think we discussed last meeting that would be submitted. We should hear back later this week as to whether or not we were awarded, the chance to interview and pick an intern for the summer. As we described, it was going to be for a project involving mapping of pedestrian infrastructure facilities, where the intern will also be asked to produce a report of maintenance recommendations, ideas, potential funding opportunities for more intensive infrastructure repair projects that may come out of that. Part of that report, I suggest maybe the intern can map out, assuming we get one, once we take account of what our ADA compliant facilities are, curb cuts, things like that, maybe they could map out, these are the handicap accessible routes through the main areas of the borough, because in theory we may know, what's accessible, but we don't have anything that we can actually hand somebody to say this is how you can get around if you need these ADA accessible curbs and things like that. So those are the kind of the couple deliverables that we'll be going for. Just again, for a refresher, the local government academy internship is 12 weeks. Okay, we're good. Is 12, a minimum of 12 weeks, 40 hours. I think it's, like a minimum of 380 to 400 hours. But they can do up to maybe 480. They'll reimburse at half the cost. Undergrad students get a wage rate. As of last year was $9, graduate students $10, and you get reimbursed when you submit the payroll at the end of the internship. So it's usually a really good deal both for us and for the intern, because they get a deliverable product that they can show at the end of the internship. Last item that I have on my report this evening, I just sort of wanted to restart or continue the discussion on, we've had a couple different street parking and traffic control ordinance changes or requests for updates over the last few meetings. So I sort of just wanted to put these out for discussion and maybe see if we could get together like a bulk ordinance amendment that we could do, because I think this involves two different ordinances, one of which is on-street parking, and the other is sort of just like vehicles and traffic in general. I don't know the exact code numbers, but they're in there in our code. So the four that I have on here tonight: Johnson Street, street parking. This was something that was requested by the mayor a couple months ago. Our police chief took a look at it, suggested no parking on the west side of the road, which would be the left-hand side when entering from Crafton Boulevard. The street is of a width that you're permitted to do this in the PA state code if you want to limit the street parking to one side, so that would be an ordinance change. Crennel Avenue and West Crafton Avenue street parking, again, this was something that a resident had brought to us. The road as it is on Johnston Street is narrow enough to permit restricting street parking. The request was no parking on West Crafton Avenue between Steuben Street and Crennel, and no parking on the Belvedere and Broadhead side of Crennel until you get to the underpass, basically. Another one that came up was East Crafton Avenue angled street parking. I think that this may have been kind of towards the beginning of my, when I started here. But discuss making the length of East Crafton Avenue from Noble Avenue to Station Street one way in the direction going towards Station Street, and then adding angled parking spots so that we could increase the parking down here. So instead of having just a few parking spots along the length of part of the curb. So again, that's something that you could just change by designating this a one-way street, no parking on this side, angled here. And the last one is something that a resident brought to us at the last meeting: Clearview Avenue and Harris Avenue intersection stop signs. She requested to expand signage at this intersection to a three-way stop. And I believe our public works director did take a look at it and say that there was a line of sight safety issue that would qualify us to sign the intersection this way. So sort of, I guess, if there's a general consensus to have ordinance changes prepared for all of these, some of these, none of these, sort of opening the floor to feedback.
Why not all of them? Why not all of them?
I think that they're all fine, but
Like, there should be no equivocation here. Every place that was listed in your report is a hazardous
I agree.
condition,
Yeah.
either for walking or for driving. Most notably, the corner on Harris and Clearview, where there's 12 cars parked at any one time. A fire truck probably couldn't fit through there without stopping and have playing chicken with the opposing traffic. And in front of my street, whereby the church traffic goes from the bottom of the street to the front of the church.
well, so just so I'm clear on what we're directing here, because I only mentioned the stop signs at Clearview Avenue and Harris Avenue, but if you wanted to make part of that no parking as well, I imagine, based on the width of the other streets.
I don't think it was sorry, I don't think it was anything about parking, I think it was just more the stop sign.
Oh, the stops, okay,
Well,
I
in
misunderstood.
the case of Harris and Clearview, I mean, a stop sign is to Rob's email is probably warranted there.
Mhm.
He's already taken a look at it, so I think that's probably something we're likely to look at.
And actually, state law prohibits car from parking, I believe it's 15 to 20
Close to a
feet.
stop, okay, I
Close
got
to a
confused with
stop.
the
So
fire
that
truck
will
thing.
change the
Yeah.
parking allowance.
Correct, we'll get
Okay.
two birds with one stone there with the stop sign.
We like that.
Yeah, that'll do that.
To the point of Steuben to West Crafton to Crennel, basically in front of St. Philip's on church days. You know, with all due respect to the church, their patrons and their parishioners are probably taking advantage of the lackadaisical enforcement of that, because no one's parking in that lot, and everybody parks on the side of the street. All of us are gonna drive through there at some point in time to get out of here. You have to go around those cars, and on Saturday night and Sunday morning, it's just, people are just, you know, waving each other on, it's chaos down there. So, and you take into consideration people crossing the street to get to and from the church, so we need to consider definitely an ordinance as far as no parking is
So
concerned,
then
and enforce it.
Do we need a motion to prepare those ordinance changes?
You can do a motion if you want, we can also sort of just direct the solicitor, I think, what do you want, Steve?
I would
Feel better with the
prefer that.
motion?
Yes, I
All
would.
right,
I will,
What was the, I'm
I
sorry.
propose a motion to prepare the ordinance changes as outlined by the manager's report
Seconded.
In regards to parking.
in regards to parking changes and stop.
And,
I rescind my second until that, I'll wait for you.
Okay.
I think I had it as on-street parking and traffic control.
And
Yes.
advertising.
So yes.
Seconded.
That includes advertising, right?
Yes.
That includes the whole
That
shebang.
I'm at.
All
Okay,
right,
any discussion?
I would just request that somebody email me
I will.
particulars.
Yeah,
I
don't
try
worry.
to take notes, but
no,
I'd
that's
rather
okay.
come directly.
And we're including,
Per the manager's recommendation,
We'll talk.
so she will.
We'll figure it
so
out.
we're including Johnson Street in this as well.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, that's the Johnston Street, Crennel and West Crafton Avenue, East Craft, did we wanna do East Crafton Avenue one-way angle parking? Is that a yes on that as well?
I think that'd be an ideal situation, because that's provide more parking for the business district of Crafton. But that's just my opinion on that though, but, because if you go down that road though, in front of Wolver's and Serafino's, there's cars on both sides though, and really only one car can really fit down that road anyway, with what cars are parked there.
Phil, you got anything?
Nothing, Phil? No, he's just looking at us.
He hasn't,
You can mute, you can't mute.
should we point
No,
to
he's not
him and see
talking.
if he wants
Alright, he's
anything?
not talking.
Ah, that worked.
Oh.
Oh,
He's asking if we wanna make the,
East
East
Crafton,
Crafton, in front of Serafina's and Wilbur's, so all the way down to Station, one way, and have angled parking instead of the parallel parking on both sides.
Yeah, angle parking.
okay, so
Okay.
that sounds like a
That's a
yes
yes.
from him.
I
Any objections, Fred?
Okay, I would say yes.
I think he's good. Pretty sure he said no, I'm good.
Well, that is correct.
Okay.
All right.
I think he's on.
There's a motion.
But he can unmute himself. You gotta unmute yourself if you wanna talk, Fred.
Okay, any comment or?
Okay.
I think that this time is just,
Just vote.
All right, then.
okay, alright, so,
Any public comment in this specific motion?
Make it one way, it's allow them to.
Any public
Any
Any
comment?
public comment on this specific motion on the floor?
3, 2, 1.
Okay, if not,
All right, then. Then,
sounds like a yes.
then,
Okay, you're unmuted again. Any concerns here?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can hear you.
Okay. I just need to be absolutely clear on the West Crafton from Steuben Street to the top of the hill.
his parking is 2 cars on West
and
Crafton.
if we go straight
The
from
front
the
should.
just wanna make
Cause
sure
he was
that
no off.
everyone is
He's
clear
no
on
off.
Oh.
it's gonna be the parking from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill where Cornell starts, correct?
So that's, yeah, on the, like if you're coming down the hill, that would
Yes,
be, I
the
think,
answer
on the
is yes.
right-hand side.
That's how I.
And then the other side that we had the resident request from was sort of that area right after
He's talking
coming out
about,
of Broadhead.
right, so Fred, are you questioning the parking that's directly in front of your house?
Brad, I can't hear you, just a second.
He-
Hold on a second.
Okay,
Brad,
so
Brad said-
he was saying, are you questioning the parking that was right in front of the area by your house also?
Yeah, no, that, I wanna be clear with what we're doing.
Okay, yeah,
We're doing from the bottom of Silver, or the bottom of West Crown, that's to the top of the hill where it turns into Cornell.
Correct. Yes.
West Crown
Yes.
is not being affected at all.
Correct, so
Right.
essentially, we're just talking about the cars that are parked parallel in front of, parked essentially on the curb going down where everybody's driving, not where the road turns to the dead end.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Just so there aren't any mistakes for mix-ups.
okay.
Okay. All right. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And this is, just to remind, this is a motion to prepare the ordinance
The ordinance,
change.
that's correct.
And-
You'll get to see a
not-
draft.
Part of the draft,
Yeah, you'll
yes.
get to see a draft, yep.
Yes. So there will be an opportunity to double and triple check that
Yes, indeed.
before we pass it. Thank you.
okay.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Is that all for your report?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
I have a question for the manager, may I?
Yeah,
Is Chris Bell still here?
yeah.
What's he been up to lately?
So the last time, I think it might have been about a month ago, he had started working on sort of this overall tax blight sort of qualitative map. Do you want me to go into the spiel for that? Or,
I mean, I'm aware of the context of what we were looking to have done, so is he just still working on that? Do we have
yeah,
any?
so we're kind of fine tuning it right now. But so the way that we've got it set up is basically to see, sort of blight hotspots and be able to filter out, a lot of the properties that flagged as blighted when you just print out the tax report are vacant land or land that is now municipal or school district land or something like that. So being able to cut out either undeveloped, land, like down by the farm, whatever. All those parcels that were never actually turned into homes, a lot of those will show as tax delinquent, but that's probably because everybody either doesn't know they own them or they've passed. So, being able to cut those out and still see what properties are tax delinquent over, a couple years worth of totally unpaid taxes is sort of the end goal. Among other things, like maybe being able to flag just things that are either going to share a sale or side yard apps or demo or whatever. So he gave me sort of the most recent working draft of that, where now you can visualize, the zoning or the use code at the same time as the size of the tax delinquency, which was sort of the goal. And so I think the last time we spoke, he's going to, work on the symbols for the use codes, so that way you can kind of group, this is residential uses, 1, 2, 3, 4, multifamily, this is commercial here, this is just vacant land and municipal, just stuff that, is basically erroneously coded or not really collectible.
Okay.
So that's where we left it, and I think, once he's got that done, probably, he's gonna be finishing up at the end of this semester is when his internship ends, so probably mid-April, beginning of May. So I just wanna make sure that he can work to sort of, assuming that we get the LGA intern prep the GIS system so that they could be entering, the data as they walk around the borough.
Was he still working on forms, any of the GIS forms or the smart forms, or no? Or was he not on that?
Do you mean like there was, like a service requester, I think, that was done over the summer? Is that what you're talking about, or? I'm not sure of the context either.
I mean, at some point in time, that when both, Eddie and Chris were here, we tried to get them to work on just like, having, modernizing the forms that we use in-house. Was that ever completed, or was that ever started, or where were we, what was?
I can't say that that came up in the last several months, if you mean like forms as in permit applications or,
I believe so, yeah.
yeah, that's not necessarily something that we would have that would be GIS based versus like an editable PDF, or maybe having something that you could just type into the website with an
Right,
interactive form. So that's,
so they didn't.
no,
do any of
that's
that.
separate, yeah.
Okay. All right, that was it, thanks.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
All right, next we go to the committee reports. The administration committee, Claudia?
So, the administration committee at this point consists of Abby and myself. We have been regularly meeting with the manager on alternate weeks to our council meetings, briefly on morning, looking at such things as how things are going financially, how we're doing across the budget, getting a better view into what is currently going on with administration, doing, and basically probably one of the big things that I think you had mentioned that happened today, that the manager had mentioned before, is that Catherine and Carissima had training from Mark Schuster.
Yes.
And the whole concept with that is to make a better connection with reporting into Jordan so that they can track better taxes that are due, finding places where we've been missing tax collection, and how that's all gonna work so that we get better connectivity and better collection from Jordan. So that's one of the big things. And so just basically, meeting on a regular basis, trying to get an idea of what the issues are that are going on, where we need to reporting to council about, any key issues, and generally to kind of help set priorities and answer questions. So I've been finding that extremely helpful, and Abby's been, I think they've been very productive meetings so far.
Yep. Going well.
Any questions?
So Mark Schuster is still working with us for how much longer, or what was
Well,
that?
okay, so basically, and I think the manager can speak to this a little bit more. So Jordan has taken over the payment of their software, and they've made arrangements so that we're able to use the software to report in, and then Jordan is using it to help improve and increase tax collection. So they're going to be entering, as opposed to doing the manual way that they've been trying to get information about inspections and sales and various things like that, they'll be using that software. And so he was just here to train them. But we have no specific obligations, financial, to turnkey tax at this point. Jordan is taking over all of that.
Haven't seen a bill yet?
Yes.
So, yeah, and just a little,
Yeah, go Phil.
Yeah, question, so the previous contract that we signed with Turnkey, is that gonna be superseded with another contract?
There will be no contract with them specifically, so yes, we
So we need
can,
to terminate the current contract?
yes, we can, I would imagine we can do that.
Okay.
And how much did he find? He was saying that he could find,
Well, what it is that he, his software will help us, not him specifically, but the borough and the borough administration staff, to them the tools to have better visibility and to help find revenue that we have not been collecting.
I can talk a little bit about the
Sure,
process
thank
too,
you.
just because, yeah, I mean, this was something that happened this afternoon. We've been trying to sort of get a training where we could all sit down and take a look at the system, because we've all gotten into it a bit and seen, oh, okay, this is what you can do here, and, you know, this is what's listed here, but there are a lot of different things that Krista and Catherine would be entering, so I think we have him coming back later in the week as well, just to sort of continue, you know, they get the chance to play around and ask questions. But basically, so there are a couple different things that we'll be using the system for. One is sort of the rental fire inspection registry that we discussed. We needed a way to map that to the rental properties. The turnkey system accounts for properties that are rentals, and so we can add sort of a flag like, okay, it was inspected on this day, and 2 years from now, the inspection is done again. So we can sort that report, you know, give it to the building inspector monthly. You know, basically tell them, you know, okay, this month, these are the things that are, you know, these are the rental or the commercial fire inspections or what have you that are due. By entering things like building and occupancy permits, it can help track, for building permits, there, I think, are, I can't recall, is it the mercantile tax?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
specifically, so
Yeah.
one of the biggest areas is with our rentals, because there are certain mercantile taxes that are due from businesses. So that's one of the areas where we don't
Right.
have we have a low compliance,
Yes,
and the work that they've all been doing to get a better handle on our rentals and the owners of those rentals, and where we are and are not collecting both the mercantile tax and
And the
the
business
business
Yeah.
privilege.
like on rentals, you would collect a business privilege tax, but if we don't have certain addresses identified as rentals that are owned by a certain landlord, we won't really know if they're not
Right.
paying that tax, or if contractors do work in the borough, but they're not reporting the work that they're doing to Jordan Tax, which, I mean, they may not know that they have to, or it's just kind of slipping through the cracks. If we attach things like the building permits to different properties, Jordan can then follow through and say, okay, you know, this contractor worked here. We should follow up and make sure that we're collecting the business taxes regarding that, or payroll and earned income tax. Again, it's usually on the national employers to report to the borough when they have people working here, but national employers don't really know when they see 15205 Pittsburgh. They think, oh, okay, they live in the city of Pittsburgh, and they send that tax to the city of Pittsburgh instead of to us. So being able to track all of these things, people moving in and out, will help Jordan basically be more aware of the taxes that they should, different people or businesses should be paying. So as we get those different registrations and information, we put it into the system, Jordan pulls it, makes the updates in their records, and hopefully from that, I mean, the assumption is that you see an increase in taxes, you know, being collected that should be.
That you
yeah.
haven't collected, and then there'll be, as they establish that, there will be probably some arrearage that they'll be able to collect.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, the software and the connection that, and the responsibility that Jordan is taking on with it, should give us results, but it takes our administrative people doing the work to,
get it up and running. kind of.
and to maintain it in order to be able to collect those taxes. So basically, his business model has changed a little bit in the fact that he's working directly with Jordan, who is the collection agent for us, as opposed to being a secondary service that is trying to collect separately.
So we don't have an actual ETA then?
Well, we have it's boots on the ground now.
Yes.
So we will start seeing arrearage, delinquent taxes, and we get reports on that. So we should be able to track
To see
if
the
there's
difference, yeah.
some increase in that, and if there's some overall increase in the amount of mercantile business privilege
Yeah.
tax that we're collecting from rentals.
The collections on all that is pretty stable. So if there's a significant percentage change from, quarter to quarter, year to year,
Right.
that should be,
That should be apparent.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things is that he really helped, along with the interns that we had, identify a significant number of rentals that we did not have
that's what we
on
noticed today for
record
sure.
as being rental units and who their owners were. And so that's been a big piece already.
Mhm.
And so there've been some number, I noticed, this morning, or this afternoon when I stopped by, that they were talking about, actually a fairly large rental property in town.
Yes, it was not listed at
that
all
had-
as a rental.
Right, that hasn't been listed and hasn't paid taxes, which that one should, if Jordan is successful, as they ought to be, that should be a nice little uptick.
So, in the sense that they have made progress in isolating the, I don't want to say bad actors, but the outliers but we don't have any quantifiable numbers as to what.
Not yet, but we will.
And when might we think that might be?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to say exactly,
So-
which is not the greatest answer, I know,
So the
but-
thing is basically, I think that you guys have cleared the deck and have come to understand the connection between using that system and Jordan's ability to be aware of and collect the taxes.
Yes, and
So what we should be able to do is look at what gets entered, what's new, and check it against the report. Now, I
Yes.
imagine that it probably, at the very minimum, is going to take 60 to 90 days from any time that Jordan becomes aware of delinquent taxes that they have not been aware of before in order to make any type of collection.
Yeah, like for,
And one of the things that we've talked about in a meeting that we had a couple of months ago with the president of Jordan and Mark, that they have gotten pretty, Jordan has gotten pretty aggressive with putting liens on properties for arrearage.
Yeah.
So I think that overall, give it 6 months, give it 12 months,
Yeah.
we are going to see a measurable uptick in what we are collecting
Yeah.
that we have not been able to collect before.
and I can't say for sure about delinquent taxes, just because I'm not intimately familiar with how they tend to go after those, but I know that I think it's mercantile taxes paid quarterly, business privilege is perhaps paid yearly.
Yearly.
He was showing that to us today, so for the collections going forward, for mercantile, we should see an uptick, maybe delayed by a quarter or something like that, but as we go through, that will come up, and then probably yearly for business privilege, possibly for EIT as well.
So what we should be able to do is to look at, they should be able to date the new things that they put in, and they should be able to track the results.
Yeah.
And so over time, we should be able to have better reporting and better understanding of delinquencies and bringing entities that should have been on the tax rolls that have not been, getting them on, getting their delinquency taken care of, and getting them to be paying on a regular basis on time.
So they've never paid taxes on these people that weren't.
Yeah, there are
That's
some,
correct.
yes.
Yeah,
And what we're looking at as a starting point are the rentals, because that's a big piece, but also businesses. And then one of the things that I keep talking about are the invisible businesses. Those of us who are running for-profit organizations out of, virtual, out of our homes, or being consultants, and making sure that, that kind of invisible, commercial or professional swath is actually paying their business privilege tax as well.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Next we have the Parks and Rec Committee, Marcia.
Yes, I don't know if we can put a motion on the next meeting to have Gateway look at the bottom of the stud riding hill, the girls softball field, having something done there. and get both the fields back into order.
Can you, just real quick, what do you have in mind with that problem with subdividing?
It's a swamp, it needs to be drained somehow. There was a French drain at one time, I think, in there. But it's just getting worse, and you can't use the field.
So should we motion that now? Or-
We can do that, so why not? Because I mean, it's been talked about for a while.
Well, this would
Yeah.
just be to direct the engineer to just go ahead and see what the options are and report back?
I can just.
To improve the
that.
conditions?
Go ahead, Phil.
We've been doing that.
We've been doing what? Who's been doing what?
The engineer has been taking a look at that. That's, if you recall, a couple meetings ago when I was discussing part of the Belvedere project, that part of the evaluation was at lower field. So there is some engineering work that's been done to take a look, and essentially there has to be drains put in if you're going to deal
So
with
then
that
we need
situation,
the
or you're going to
engineer
have
to
to.
bring that back to us?
That's what I was trying to discuss at one meeting. So when we get to the public works meeting, section of the committee, we can discuss that.
Okay. Well, okay, so basically you're saying that we have an overlap here between Parks and Rec and Public Works?
Yes.
Okay.
And the public works director's still in the room, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, good.
And we could have the engineer look at the wood on the stage to see how much damage is in there and how much needs to be replaced, or it all needs to be replaced.
I'm not sure that's too much.
Wood on the stage and what, where are we
Yeah,
talking
probably
about?
not.
Above the top of the stage. There's
So-
Public Works will do that.
there's wood up there
Okay,
now.
so on top of the amphitheater? Are you talking about you're talking about the rafters?
Stage?
Yeah, outside, very.
Let's talk about the facade.
Facade.
Yeah.
You're talking about the wood outside of it, not the
So
actual
someone-
interior.
So basically Parks and Rec is making a recommendation that we need to look at the condition of the stage.
Facade, yeah.
Okay.
Public Works then.
Okay, so what is the condition of the stage then, Rob?
The facade itself is actually starting to deteriorate to the point it does need replaced. And there's some options. I actually talked to Dennis Joyce this afternoon. He came in and spoke in my office on a different matter, and that was discussed a little bit. And what we have a cement composite board that we're gonna use, start this month. It's gonna be part of the renovation of the main shelters. We put the new tin roofs on 2 years ago. This year we have material bought, just have to get it installed in place. It looks like wood. It's like a masonry type material that we're gonna install, so you don't have to worry about deterioration and the wood rotting and being replaced. I mentioned it to Dennis because he had requested, he said he had some funding possibly available for this, that once we get that up, take a look at it and see if there's something that he might move forward with his recommendation or approval, something to look at when we get it up for the stage itself.
So you're saying you already have that material?
We have the material for the shelter, yes.
So potentially this would be not an issue when you change it out, correct?
No. Well,
No,
this
we're not.
material's for the shelter, it's bought and purchased for the shelter. Once it's installed, then council, the direct board, Dennis and his group can take a look at it, see if they want to use that on the stage facade itself.
Right.
So,
Because there was a question that they wanted it to be wood a couple of years ago when we did replace the wood up there. That they wanted the wood because it was in a park, and so that was the only.
It's like a
Well,
composite
who's
material
the
that's
they?
real similar to.
Who's the they wanted wood?
The city residents and stuff, they, wanted to see.
Is there any deterioration inside the pavilion that we know of? Is the stage okay? Is the rafters okay?
Oh, yeah, everything's,
Is the lighting
structurally
okay?
the stage is okay. There's some shipment moving the block
Right,
which is, natural,
right,
which is a pointing repair.
right.
Nothing major or hazardous or, like I said, structural. Some movement that people have in their foundations and blocks like movement with the mortar. The stage itself, it's some plywood on it. It's a little worn. Does it need totally replaced at this point? I'd say no. Can it be? Yes.
Right, right.
But again, it's been there for a few years, but there's nothing drastically or majorly wrong with it.
So I'm not gonna hold you to this, but if you're gonna ballpark the amount of the masonry on the side of if you're gonna replace the wood on the side of the pavilion with something that was newer, what would the number be?
I'd have to get it to you. I'm not sure on the exact cost, and it depends on what you put out.
If we're gonna put up what you're recommending.
That's a minimal cost, it is a few $1,000 to do it.
So potentially you would say that we would be able to replace the siding on the pavilion for a few $1,000. I'm sorry, the stage for a few $1,000.
I have to measure it up, the exact measurement, but yeah, it wouldn't be that expensive, especially with the guys doing it in-house.
Okay. So do we need that to do that as a motion, Steve, or do you just tell them to do it, or?
Sounds like it's already gonna be done.
Yeah,
Well, the stage isn't gonna be done, but the shelter
Right.
itself, it should be started this month,
Okay,
weather permitting.
okay.
anything else?
Anything else, Marcia?
Just the senior dinner will be on Saturday night. We'll have the Irish dancers there for that.
Okay.
Like Michael Flatley?
Brad, I think you're up for public safety.
They're from the St. Patrick's Day parade.
I'm old enough to remember
They
that.
do the
Yeah,
parade.
public
Okay.
safety.
Yes, it works. I was afraid.
Go ahead, Fred.
We can hear you.
You know what, I got disconnected there for a minute. I just want to go back to that administrative thing with Ms. Coletta.
Yes?
I just have now, the way I understand this is now that Jordan Tax Service is going to pay key tax, that $300 a month fee that we were paying.
Yeah, and we actually never paid,
I don't
we
think we ever
never
paid one
paid
yet.
the $300 a month.
Yeah, we got a contract for it, we never actually had to pay it though.
Okay, well, that's a real plus, bravo, you guys, you and Abby are doing a great job with the administration thing, that's good. Okay, I just have probably two items. The mayor, I'm sure the next meeting will report on the speed situation on Crafton Boulevard where the speed monitors are.
You caught my car in there, by the way. Just, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw myself in the mouth.
Nothing. Nothing, don't worry about it, Fred. Keep going.
136 on there.
Keep going, Fred.
Okay, and the other thing is that the Civil Service Commission is having a meeting on the 20th of March at 6 p.m. at the council chambers. And after that meeting, they will probably be in a position to make their recommendation for the conditional offer for the police officer. And that's all I have.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Any
Thank
questions,
you.
Fred? No? Thank you. Next, we got the Public Works Committee.
So I'm gonna make that report. Phil, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, you can jump in when you feel like you need to. So, on Friday, this past Friday, Philip, RJ, Mr. Corbel, and I met with Scattergood and Boning, which is a financial services company out of Carnegie, and we met with them to ascertain how we might fund some of our infrastructure projects in the borough. Essentially, we talked to them about coming into council to do a presentation. They have given us just basically some rough information about what some long-term financing options for the borough might look like. So we're not tied into anything at this point in time. It's all speculative and cursory. We're just kind of talking with them and they're talking with us. So hopefully we can have them come into council and make a presentation to the council and the community about what something like this might look like and what it might look like in our budget. But that's basically what we've done thus far.
So, can I ask how much of this has to do with what would be considered public works? And how much of this would really fall under another umbrella, like infrastructure, which I don't see as being part of public works, or capital development?
Well, right now, based on what they've indicated that we would be able to obtain money and funding for, is strictly what we would categorize as stuff under public works or engineering.
Okay,
So-
so,
Go ahead.
Ms. Perry, what is the definition of infrastructure in public works?
so generally, when I see public works, I'm thinking about our public works department and the things that they're responsible for. When we start talking about doing this kind of financing that you're talking about, I believe we're talking about roads, I think we're talking about sewers, I think we're talking about things that don't technically come under the public works department purview to do. So I'm trying to get, excuse me, I'm just trying to get an idea, because you're announcing to council that you have started talking about funding sources and you're reporting it under public works, and I'm just looking for clarification.
That you've answered your own question. So do you have anything else you'd like to contribute to this?
I think that what you guys are talking about does not fall under public works.
Duly noted, thank you.
And I think that we need to have a different discussion at a different time if we're gonna start talking about this stuff.
I'm gonna direct my speaking to the chair from here on out. This is, so the idea of this is not to inflame passions. The idea of this is to fact find. And we've discussed, we've heard from our constituents numerous times over that the town needs investment. So we are simply taking it upon ourselves to begin that process. Of course, nothing is gonna be done without the consent and after the deliberation of council. So if you wanna call it public works, or you don't wanna call it public works, that's fine. You can call it whatever you'd like to call it. The point is that if it's not done in a committee structure, then we still need to do it outside of a committee structure. We still need to have this discussion. So we're obviously gonna invite everybody to come in and speak. So I don't think that anyone needs to be worried about the fact that these discussions are taking place. Everyone will be consulted, everybody has a vote, and everybody will be able to deliberate upon it when the time is when we're ready to pull the trigger or not pull the trigger.
Mr. President?
We just had the discussion, and I'm reporting it as part of the report.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I have no objection that we are talking about these things. My objection is that it's coming under Public Works Committee, that I think that this kind of discussion needs to be labeled for what it is, and it needs to be much more clear, and we need to have more discussion about it.
Okay, so is your understanding is that this is supposed to be
What,
engineering?
I have the floor.
Is this your question, that this particular topic though, that Mr. Kraus though is mentioning is more of engineering rather than public works? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm trying to say, is that this is supposed to be a committee reports on public works. And what we're hearing is we are hearing about investigating financing at a high level for capital improvements, including infrastructure. And I'm just talking about, let's call it what it is.
Okay.
I'm going to read the definition of public works, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, the definition of public works. Public works are a broad category of infrastructure projects, financing constructed by the government for recreational, employment, and health and safety uses in the greater community. They include public buildings, municipal buildings, schools, hospitals, transport infrastructure, roads, railroads, bridges, pipelines, canals, ports, airports, public spaces, public squares, parks, beaches, public services, water supply and treatment, sewage treatment, electrical grid, dams, and other usually long-term physical assets and facilities. Though often interchangeable with public infrastructure and public capital, public works does not necessarily carry an economic component, thereby being a broader term.
Okay. Thank you.
Hence, the committee name was intentionally named Public Works by the President of Council. Thank you.
Okay, well, Thank you, Mr. President. Anything else, Mr. Kraus? And we'll move on.
Questions, Rob, the signs for the park, the exit signs, are they,
They're just refurbished, redone, and ready to go. You'll see them up before the first day of spring. Entrance, exit, and Crafton Park.
and paving the alleys, where do we stand with that?
The paving list for 2019 was submitted. List of alleys were part of that paving list. I think Public Works Committee manager and engineering reviewed those. I don't believe the final list has been completed. I think it was sent to council.
I think Highland was proposed at the last meeting that we had the
Highland's
engineer
on.
here. Yeah.
Highland's been
Yeah.
approved from
We-
North Emily to the dead end. Some other alleys that I put on there have been reviewed, and I think they're gonna be paved and placed at a later date. Right now, I have that older paver we purchased last year. We didn't get to use it. We're in the process of finding a new screed, which is actually the straight edge on the machine itself. That should be up and running. We should be able to do it. A few of the locations that I submitted this year, we should be able to do a few of those in-house.
One question, the alley by the school, the one that's good, right, beyond the school, is that being paved by the city? Is that part of that?
I'm not sure which alley by,
Right after you pass the three-way stop sign, come down and you got the alley off to your right, you put some asphalt in there over the.
that's gonna be redone by the gas company.
Okay.
They dug up from, I met with them on Friday, as a matter of fact. We met with them Friday to talk about their responsibilities as far as restoration. Vance Way is gonna be done from Orchard to Crafton Boulevard, where they dug up and trenched that line. So that whole section will be done.
Anything else from the Public Works Committee? Any questions?
Yes. To go ahead and address the issues about the lower ball field, also known as the sled riding hill, the Public Works Committee and the Public Works Director have been discussing the issues. So, Rob, you've been discussing the potential of removing the backstop and essentially clearing all that out. And on the engineering side, we have some issues outside of the infrastructure for the baseball diamond, and that would be number one. We had one of the wettest years on record, like over the past 12 months. So some of the water issues will abate hopefully if we have less rain. But if we want to go ahead and mitigate the situation, there's going to have to be some type of underdrain, or as commonly referenced, trench drain. And I think the Public Works Director has mentioned that. Outside of the broader conversation and potentially using that area for stormwater, that is a potential area where we could put a set pond and down the road. But again, these are all options. I think the easiest thing is to potentially bring in some different fill and potentially do the French drain. But it just comes down to dollar and cents, and is it worth it at this point to try to mitigate something that hopefully eventually will dry out, or there may be a longer term solution to try to better utilize that area.
So, is there some study being done that's going to be presented so Parks and Rec and the rest of us can make a decision about this?
Yeah, it's at, RJ, did you put some of that on the council shared drive? Would we
So
have some
are we
thoughts
talking
from
about
the engineer?
the Belvedere project?
Just the back end of it.
The back end of it.
I'm not talking about the street, just forget about the street. I'm talking about
Um,
the bottom of it, what is proposed,
Well, there wasn't anything that was taken a look at by the engineers aside from either repaving.
No,
Restoring
no,
Belvedere.
there was.
They didn't
it's the
provide
lower
any
half,
information.
The connecting component,
Well,
where
it-
they're going, where they were suggesting putting the set on.
I'd have to take a look at it, but all I remember them getting us were cost estimates for reconstructing the road or building, you know, a connecting road.
So,
At which point it looked like they had fill that was going in, and maybe there was some sort of pond down there, but I mean, I'll double check, I could be wrong, but I don't
Yeah.
recall them providing us any of that
We'll
information.
have the engineer at the end of the month, present their ideas on the situation. And Director Kazarowski, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, if I recall from the meeting we had with Public Works Committee manager and Gateway had mentioned there is an opportunity down there to connect pipes. I believe there's a catch basin somewhere near the Nicholson Street location. There is a French drain that's actually been installed there over probably a number of years ago that's not functioning. It's probably clogged. We tried to run our little jetter through there once without any luck. So I wouldn't say it's collapsed, but it definitely it's clogged. We can try to alleviate some of the water with the bigger jetter from the cog to see if we have any luck with that. That area, as far as a baseball field, as far as I know and could see from being there, I don't think it's utilized. I think we're better off directing our resources to the other field, where T-ball, it's used for T-ball. I think putting the resources in there and getting that into good shape and leaving the backfield as a green space, as part of the sled riding hill. And, you know, I'd like to work with the rec board to come up with a decision on exactly what they want to do with that field. But from my understanding from residents and from employees and from being there personally, that backfield was actually set up for a girls softball field back when my daughter played. I actually coached on that field. And I think it's to the point now where, between the CIT fields and the Crafton field, that field is obsolete. I think we could probably serve better as a green space, buffer between Crafton Boulevard and as a sled ride hill. So that would be my recommendation to the rec board, and if the rec board sees it different, then we can do what we gotta do. But I'd like to try and get the big, factor in there. Last year was very difficult because it was a rainy season. We couldn't get our tractor on there to cut it half the time because it was so wet. So this year, hopefully, in better conditions, I can try and open that up with more power for a big jetter.
I don't feel ponds are a very good idea. You've got kids in the park and that's gonna,
We'll try and get it open. We'll try and get the drainage system open. But my understanding is the ice skate down there. Back in the day, some of my old-time employees said there used to be an ice skate rink. So I guess at one point it was a pond. That's why they put the drainage system in to alleviate it. But that's my understanding of the old days. That was before me.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to address the chair. I just have to say that I am beyond taken aback by the amount of criticism that we've received.
Are you updating us on the Public Works Committee, or are you trying to say a comment right now?
I'm sitting in comment in regards to the Public Works Committee report.
Okay.
And can I address the chair?
Once I finish the floor.
I thought you were finished.
Go ahead, sir. Sorry, I interrupted you.
So this was my idea to go find financing to fix this town. Members of council want to take it up with somebody that can take it up with me. I don't think that we need to play politics and word games with the fact that the town is in disrepair, it needs investment. So if some other folks would like to go do this, they can take it upon themselves to do it as well. I am not surprised by this. I was hoping that it would have a better response, but I can't say that I'm not surprised. So if this entire process is going to be this demoralizing for our constituents and for members of council, then I'm wondering what's the point. The idea of this body, the idea of being elected, is to serve the common good and to do the right thing. So if anyone here thinks that fixing up this town and investing in itself is not the right thing, well, let's hear it right now. Is what I'd like to say. I see the floor.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have the floor for a moment?
Yes.
I am not disparaging or in any way, shape, or form saying that we should not invest in this community. What was reported on was a financial matter, and at one point, when you and I were originally appointed to that committee, the administration committee, it was called Administration and Finance. And so what really has happened is that certain people have taken it upon themselves under another guise, without being transparent to the rest of us, what was going on, looking to, I don't know what, to circumvent the very appointments that you made, and put this in motion before we've even had a discussion about what we're willing to do. We all know we've spent the last year talking about, the last 2 years, about what needs to be done. And we know there's a lot to be done, and we know this council has the will to do it. But what I don't like is changing words around and going after talking to bond issuers without the rest of us understanding that that is going to take place and why. And ahead of the time of deciding, I have the floor for a moment more, please. And that is what I am objecting to. I am not objecting to us investing in this community, improving this community. What I am objecting to is the playing with the semantics and the words and not being the transparent body that we've committed to be. We're not being transparent to each other, and we're not being transparent, period. And that's what I'm upset about.
All right, thank you.
May I have the floor?
I'd rather go ahead and continue on with the meeting though, rather than add more comments though to this issue right now. So I'd rather continue, and then at the end of the discussion section, you can
I
add
just
more
would like,
comments.
I would like to just make one more remark. With regards to being transparent, there's nothing more transparent than what has occurred. Members of council are able to make meetings. The president of council was asked to have a meeting with the solicitor and with the manager and with this organization, of which I took out my time to go down there to learn more about the process, of which we brought the information back to this body, of which I shared this information that I recently acquired over the weekend. I shared the information over the weekend with Councilwoman Perry. I gave her the exact information that was generated. It was very transparent. There's nothing more to the discussion other than there are options out there. Alcosan wants to see the borough willing to invest in itself. In order for us to leverage their grant funds, we need to be able to secure financing through whatever means there may be. They suggested USDA loan options. The manager has been evaluating that since she learned about that. She also knows about Penvest loans. She also knows about the bond market. And that information is being shared with the body. We will continue to have conversations, and finance is a part of every facet of government. So it's every committee's responsibility to have play a fiduciary role. Every time we accept the bills list, we are exercising our fiduciary responsibility, and therefore, Public Works has to figure out how these projects will be financed and how we can make good recommendations to the body. So, with that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we can come back on the 25th to have more discussion. But I applaud Mr. Kraus for jump-starting the process as it's late dormant since last summer, and I do truly appreciate everybody's input, and hopefully there's no confusion moving forward. So thank you, and with that, I'm going to be leaving the meeting. I have to get going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next, on to the business agenda. In the administration section, we have a motion to approve the 2018 real estate road tax refunds in the amount of $609.52 as presented and submitted by Jordan Tax Services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
All opposed?
No.
Get that.
His friends.
Yes, yeah, Fred, did you vote?
Fred, would you like to vote on this motion? Oh, he glitched out again, all right, hang on. We're calling you back. Oh, you're just gonna have to. I don't know why this keeps happening.
All right, Fred, you're back. The question, yeah, we can hear you. The question is, what is your vote on the first motion under administration, the refund of real estate tax?
It's yes, but I have some comments to make too.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
It's not on this motion. I have some comments to make about this financial service thing. So.
What financial service thing?
It was what we were just, he probably was talking, but.
Let us get through, like, first go through, wait till the discussion items, and we can talk to you on that one, though, okay?
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, very good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, got a yes from that one? Next, we have motion to authorize Crafton, correction. Motion to approve the 2018 volunteer service tax credits in the amount of $2,359.88 as presented and submitted by Crafton Volunteer Fire Chief Michael Brown and certified by Jordan Tax Services.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion?
Yes. Was this supposed to be for new firemen, and was it supposed to be put on for every year afterwards on this?
You have to vote every year, and it's based on, the criterion that typically, when somebody is considered like a full firefighter in the Crafton Volunteer Fire Department, so that's something that the fire chief goes over, sends over to us, we certify the amounts, and then it has to be approved by motion every year for every fireman.
So, the names we have here, how many new ones have they gotten in? Wasn't this put out there for the new
Oh, I see what
firemen?
you're asking, I don't have that information, but I can certainly get it for you.
Any further comments or discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
All opposed?
No.
Mark that under there. Did we get everybody's vote on
Do we need a roll call?
that? We need the roll call vote? Get a roll call vote.
Mr. Amendola,
yes,
Mr. Kraus,
Abstain.
Ms. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Damitz,
No.
Mr. Rosario.
Yes.
All right. 3-1 with one abstention.
Okay. Next, we have a motion to authorize Crafton Celebrates to host a pet portrait station at their fundraising event in Crafton Park on May 25th, 2019, in accordance with the Crafton Borough Code of Ordinances, Chapter 154, Parks and Recreation Areas, provided that any pets are kept on a leash or otherwise restrained at all times.
So moved.
All right, I'm not gonna get a second here.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, if someone's bitten by one of these dogs, who's liable for that?
The owner's vote.
The ordinance not letting them in the park?
This is, we're basically waiving the application of the ordinance for this limited event. It's still up to the owner to maintain control of their dog.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Roll call vote.
no,
Okay. Mr. Amendola.
no.
Okay. Mr. Kraus.
Yes.
Just because I think it's a conflict with our ordinance, and
Oh.
You know, if we waive that ordinance, we're gonna get lots
So,
of complaints.
just
So,
real
that's the reason
quick,
I'm voting no.
there, just so you're aware, and it's, you know, it's fine if you still know, but, that specific section of our code has a provision where it allows council specifically to waive it by motion for events described as such.
But is that day, is it, anybody can bring a dog on a leash to,
I believe it's anybody participating in the event, yes.
and how will we define, because your dog's here, my dog's not there.
I think it's if you want to have a pet portrait and want to pay the bucks, then you bring your dog down and you get the picture of the pet taken. That's
how
my
I-
understanding of what the event is.
That's how I interpret the
And
motion.
anybody else,
If you're just bringing your dog down for a snow cone, you can't bring him in the park.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Ms. Dammits?
no,
Mr. Rosario?
Yes.
Okay. 3-2.
All right, next we have a motion to advertise an ordinance to increase the membership of the Recreation Board from 7 members to 9 members and set term lengths for renewed seats.
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? She had mentioned though, having to make sure that we put the term limits, so do we have to word it any way though to?
No, I have notes on that I'll revise the draft I put together to make sure that the 2 new appointees will have essentially a 2-year term
Okay,
that will end in December of '21.
and that will give us every year, there's a seat up then,
There will be at least 2 every year,
so
yes.
every year, okay.
It's just because of the 3-year term,
It's, I think it's 4.
a 4-year term, right?
Yeah, that's how we got messed up in the, when we shrank it.
Okay, and then everyone's though will be extended to the end of the year? December 31st?
No, anybody who's appointed after next January will be on the December 31st. You can't change the term of somebody while they're serving their term. So folks whose term would expire this year in September, we just won't replace them until after the first of the year. Otherwise, they'll still have a September term.
And will they continue to serve then from September to December?
Yes, we did add language, even though it's common law, we did the research for the manager, that people serve until they're replaced. We did add language to the ordinance that says that they will serve until their successor is appointed and qualified.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Standard.
All in favor?
Aye.
Standard language.
Fred froze.
Um,
All right.
Are you good?
And mine, yes.
He's trying to reconnect.
He's trying to connect, or?
This is reconnect. Fred, can you hear us? Fred, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How did you vote on that motion on the rec board?
I voted yes.
Thank you. All right. Next, we got Public Works. Motion to approve payment in the amount of $9,123.78 to PennDOT as the borough's share of the ADA curb ramps project approved on May 8th, 2017.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Does it mean the one down the bottom, St. Philip's Hill, will be replaced?
This was for work that was already completed in 2017. There's a full list, but it's several intersections. I think Oregon Avenue is one of them. It was intersections that were, that needed to be redone after the 2017 paving of Steuben Street.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a motion to approve the pay application number 1 and the final in the amount of $20,472.62 to SHACOG for the SHACOG Joint O&M Preventative Maintenance Project Year 8. This payment is for the work completed as part of the joint bid that has been reviewed by SHACOG's engineer and will be the final pay application for this project.
So
So
moved.
moved.
No, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we get the planning and zoning, motion to approve resolution number 2019-03, accepting the side yard program application for parcel 40K75, 1508 Bar Avenue, as recommended by the planning commission.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Next in discussion items, Fred, you want to go ahead and talk what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, the first thing is I have a question for the solicitor.
Yes.
If someone abstains from voting, do they not have to provide a reason why they're abstaining?
Only if it's due to an ethical conflict, which I don't believe was the case when Mr. Kraus abstained earlier.
That would be correct.
Okay. And then the other thing, I just want to make a statement, and I don't want to open up another can of worms here, but, you know, when we start talking about financial services and borrowing money and bond issues, for the record, I have been against that as long as I've been on council. I've been a policeman in Crafton. I was 33 years, 5 years on council, 38 years. In those 38 years, I have not heard any constituents come to me and say, we have a problem with our infrastructure. Well, we have to get this fixed. I just want to go on the record and say that I am against borrowing money or floating a bond. And I'm all for investing in the community, but I just don't see, I don't want to see us tie up future councils with big, heavy payments, like what's happened in the past, with council make some stupid decisions, and the future councils end up paying the bills. And that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Anybody else want to discuss anything that wasn't discussed yet, or bring up? No? All right. Next, we have community announcements. There's fire safety info session, March 27th at 7 p.m. at the community center, hosted by the Crafton Code Enforcement Building Inspection Underwriters and the Crafton Volunteer Fire Department. We got additional citizens' comments. Mr. Neiman, please state your name and address for the record.
I bowled on Sunday.
My name's Roy Neiman, 102 Haldane Street. Came to my attention this morning, this is first an FYI to council members and RJ and her staff. We don't have a notary in this town.
We have several.
Your people do not know of any other notary other than the magistrate. And the person who is doing that has retired. That's where your staff pointed me to. No criticizing on them, but that's all they know. And so I had to go out to
First
Carnegie
National Bank,
to
any bank.
get my papers notarized.
I don't believe you can go to Woolworths and get one.
The second part is,
Oh, yeah, you can.
to bring in somebody, it would be a great fill, or a store, that we could bring, or not a store, a business that we could bring in, to do taxes, notary, cars, that kind of thing. Like Moretti's does in Crafton.
Something to say every
Just a thought.
He seems to me he's got something to say every meeting.
So,
Wait that.
but I'm not,
Wait till.
nobody can point me to another notarizer in this area. Like I said, I have to go to credit.
I think Wayne said Global Codes did it.
Who? What?
Who else notarizes, did you say?
Every bank in town, there's 4 banks in town and every one has a notary.
Did not know that.
Yes.
The final thing is, just real quick, why don't we have somebody in the office doing this? And, here, let me give you this.
To do what exactly?
To do notary. It's not that difficult, it's fairly cheap. I mean, you're talking $300 to get somebody to be a notary in the RJ staff. Just a suggestion.
We actually were discussing it today, so, yeah.
What's his name?
I mean, just because we need a notary around the office sometimes for
Right.
different things,
Yeah,
and
several
lots of,
attorneys.
we try to catch Jack when he's free down at the magistrate's office.
Hey, Dennis?
We do have a continuing education and training budget that we share. It's new this year, the line item. And the administrative staff shares it. So we were taking a look at potentially, now, I don't know if, I've had a notary in offices before, and that hasn't necessarily been a service open to the public that we specifically provided for anybody who came in. It was mostly for our own office use. But, yeah, there were a couple conferences and different trainings and things like that planned for this year, so we'll have to take a look at the budget overall, but it is something that,
Yeah, if you don't want to
it's on
open
the
it to,
radar.
if you, excuse me.
Yeah, thanks, hey, thanks for the information.
I'll send you the
because
link to that.
That's what, we found a couple different course options and we're Googling around, so it's probably similar
Yeah.
to this, yeah.
But the main purpose here was to let your staff know that, well, the banks. that-
Yeah, that's typically what I've been familiar with, is your bank can usually notarize things for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other citizen comments? I did forget to mention though that we did have an executive session, council did on this past Wednesday.
Yeah,
And
Probably the one, I know the
That was you.
one.
that was on personal.
Real estate.
Personal, correct.
They do.
All right, with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.